This episode is brought to you by Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, you should definitely check them out. It's a super easy tool that anyone can use to create and distribute their podcast. It has everything you need, and you can do it all from your computer or even your phone. Need your podcast cover art? There's a tool. Music and sound effects? They have you covered. Want to record on the fly? It's easy with the app. Now you may be saying to yourself, I already have a podcast. No worries, just create your account, upload, and publish to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Looking for some walking around money? Anchor connects you with advertisers who match your brand. It's a one-stop shop for all of your podcasting needs. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, welcome to BizQuik. I'm Julie.
And I'm Corey.
And on today's show, we have Frank De Lio. He's the Senior Executive Director of Experior Financial Group out of Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Frank.
That's right. You're listening to BizQuik. This is where Julie and Corey provide quick and useful information to small business owners. BizQuik is the podcast where small business owners get to showcase their businesses and receive expert advice and guidance in areas many entrepreneurs struggle with. And you, the listener, get solutions, tips, and tricks on real-world topics that many small business owners face. Julie and Corey are the experts small businesses hire when they need solutions. And the BizQuik podcast is just one way they deliver those solutions. Let's start the show.
Hello, good morning. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on the podcast today. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm fantastic. I'm totally blessed. Fantastic. Just, excited about life, to be honest with you, and not letting the obvious get in the way, right? And we've been blessed in our industry, so I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good.
Doing well.
So Experior Financial Group, what is it and what do you do?
All right, awesome. That's it. That's a great question. So we are a financial services company, a brokerage, and we serve our clientele, which is in personal finance. So we help our clients get their personal finances in order, and we show them the right things to do with their insurance, their investments, retirement planning, getting out of debt, and just overall financial advising. And for us, the spin on what we do is that it's education based, it's needs based on the client, based on the client's needs. So that's one part of what we do. The second part of what we do is, we're building a business. We offer a very, very, very unique opportunity for advisors to join our firm and transition and build into owning their own agency as well, which, in our industry in North America is not very common. Most companies just want to hire financial advisors to sell. We look at hiring and training advisors to build their own business as well and develop into entrepreneurs and go from there, right?
Wow, that's great.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're going to dig into this. I'm so curious about, some of the ways that you work with people, because it's so hard for so many people to even talk about finances. I think it's a subject that's filled with not a lot of education, because, they certainly don't teach a lot about it in, in school, but it's also, I think for a lot of people, it's filled with a lot of shame. And so that's going to be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it will, because I also love just talking about finances. So we got something. we had the emotional podcast the other day. Julie got to run that one. So
I'll be relatively quiet today.
Yes. Just for clarification, so you hire the financial advisors, you train the financial advisors, and then they work with their clients. Are they working with individuals, or are they working with companies, or both?
Everything. We've got advisors that specialize in what we call the family market, helping mom and dad, Main Street family. We've got clients that specialize in working with corporations and corporate finance, tax planning strategies and things like this. And we've got advisors that specialize in certain professions that work with, let's say, lawyers or doctors. So it is a full gambit of how you want to kind of niche yourself out there for different advisors. So we pretty much have a company that can tackle anything and everything.
When you're working with clients, especially let's say the small business owners, just the individuals, the little guys, so to speak, what's the most common problem or situation that you run into when you're working with them?
That's a great question. And Corey, I'd like to maybe flip that, if that's okay, if you don't mind. I specialize in working with my advisors more than anybody. They're my clients. My clients are my advisors, and they are all small business owners to various degrees. I've got advisors that are running teams of 100, 150 agents. I've got advisors who are running teams of 5 or 10 or 15 agents. Right. The biggest obstacle that I think most of them have is their own inhibitions and their own lack of security in themselves, and getting their thoughts under control, understanding that they can execute, they can make this happen. They've got what it takes to win. Just so many people question and doubt themselves and just have a hard time getting out of their own way. And when I do deal with more clients on the financial side of things, not my advisors, and I do have a book that I deal with as well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. People have these dreams, they have these goals, they have these ideas, but they're afraid to execute on them. They're afraid to push that envelope to say, I'm going to try to make this happen. Right. And I find that's the biggest obstacle I think that people face. I really do.
Yeah, we see that a lot with our clients as well, where people just are afraid. There's a lot of fear in starting a small business or being a small business owner and failing. And so I think a lot of stuff is probably rooted in that. But how do you help them get over that inhibition or that fear that they have? What are your tactics that you use?
So, for me, it's kind of twofold. I've been in the business now for 20 years, and I struggled for many years, the first 6, 7, 8 years, until I began making, what I call a livable income, right? I didn't make my first 6 figures until my 11th year in business. And I'm okay telling people that. I'm not shameful of that, because, I'm proud to say I didn't quit. I'm proud to say I didn't pack it in. I don't know if it was out of sheer stubbornness or if I was just too dumb to quit. I don't know, but but I love leveraging on my experience. I love leveraging on things that I'd gone through, which I don't think is really different than what most small business entrepreneurs go through. Those doubts, where's the next paycheck coming from? How do I pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to put food on the table for my children? I don't think those doubts are dissimilar to small business owners, right? So the first way is through my own experiences and what I've gone through being in business for 20 years. The second way is, I think we're living during a time where there's an unlimited amount of knowledge and information out there. And I love studying and following and learning from, today's business leaders and thought leaders. There's just so much out there that I leverage off that too. And I'll bring whatever materials, whatever information I can that's relevant to our business, to my advisors, to our business, to our team, to help them learn and grow, because it's there for us. It's never been like this before, where there's so much available to us, right? And so I use those two tactics. We run regular Zoom meetings 2-3 times a week with the advisors. I run a Wednesday morning class that I call my mindset and mental toughness class. And it's amazing because we have people plugging in, from our industry who are taking a look at our firm, thinking about, they're going to hear about, advanced financial strategies and market, this and that. And meanwhile, they hear this guy talking about how they got what it takes and they got to overcome their fear. And it's this mental toughness mindset training. So that I've been running for almost 4 years now, and on a weekly basis. And it's just been fantastic. I'm so thankful and blessed that I get to just share a little bit and have a small impact on these advisors' lives.
Wow, that's great. I love hearing that. There's so much power in a story, right? So being able to share with them that, it was 11 years for you before you really hit it. And, I always think about Andy Frisilla and his story. It's one of the best stories there is about starting a business, right? When he started the supplement superstores, he slept in the back of the store, and he didn't, I think it's 7 or 8 years before he actually made money. We're talking more than $600 a year. And he stuck with it, and now he has an empire, but it's a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got his book sitting on my desk right here. and just picked it up, and I love his style. I love his style.
I just want to point out you have his 75 Hard adult book, not his children's books, because he has children's books out. Yes.
I've upgraded to the adult version. My wife said the children's version just ain't going to cut it. So
I want to go back to the beginning, to your struggle. The struggle is, I mean, it's a pretty broad word in terms of the struggles that you had starting off. I mean, it could be anything from personal to business to whatever. So can you talk about those struggles and like what you overcame and how you overcame them?
Yeah. It started for me 20 years ago. I was a college student, graduated from college with an IT degree. So my background is in IT and business just over 20 years ago. But I had never gotten into it. I was this young 22, 23-year-old that was very ambitious, wanted to make money. And, I had a job, and I got another part-time job. And it's kind of funny. I got this part-time job selling blinds, like, window blinds. And my friends were like, dude, are you crazy? Right? And I just want to make money. So I got this job, and, I started working at this blind store. And after a few weeks, a lady who was training me had come to me and said, listen, I was talking to a friend of mine about you, and he runs a financial services business, and he's looking for guys, and I think you'd be really good at it. He wants to talk to you. And guys, my response was, okay. Right. And, I try to share this message with people that, one of the clues to life is just to stay open, to stay open to ideas, open to thoughts. You don't have to say yes to all of them, but you got to stay open. It really, really blows my mind when, you talk to someone about an opportunity, about anything, and they're no thanks, not interested. And yet you haven't even listened. At least say no after you hear the details. So right away, I was like, sure, I'll talk to him. And he is my business partner today, almost 21 years later. He's my business partner today. We're best friends, and our families are very close, and we're very, very tight knit. We're more brothers than we are business partners. So what had ended up happening, I said yes to him, and he had said, look, I can show you this business. I can show you how to be an entrepreneur. I can show you how to own your own agency with our firm, and really go out and help people and make a big difference, and make a boatload of money doing it. I'm 23 years old. I'm like, that's all I want to do. I just want to make money, and don't tell me when I can come and when I can go. I want to be my own boss, and I'm in, right? So my attitude was like, I don't know if this guy is full of, what, or not, but I said, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen. And if it doesn't work out, I'll take whatever he shares with me and use it on to the next venture, the next idea, right? It was 21 years ago. We've been in business together for 21 years. And so that was kind of the first start of my journey. The catalyst that really, really launched me was when our first meeting was with my parents. Immigrants to this country, immigrants to North America, like so many others. And what ended up happening, to make a long story short, was an agent, an advisor from a very, 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 very large, prominent Canadian life insurance company basically screwed my parents terribly. My father in 1990 was uninsurable after various injuries on the job, and had a heart condition. And what this agent did was basically sold 4 policies on me and my sister and my 2 brothers, making my dad believe that he was insured. So when we sat down with my parents, my dad's like, I've got $200,000 of coverage, which in 1990 was a lot of money. And he's like, if something happens to me, there's $50,000 for each of you. Your mother's going to be okay. Like, that sounds good. And then when my dad pulls out the policies, and my partner who was training me looks at them, and he says, no, he says, Peter, these are your children's policies. Where are your policies? He's like, what are you talking about? Those are my policies, And it wasn't until we made him understand that if something happened to me, my dad got 50 grand. Something happened to my sister, my dad got 50 grand. Something happened to my brothers, my dad got. So my parents, my dad worked in construction, my mom worked in retail, 4 children, young children, mortgage, debt, all that stuff. And the crazy part was in 1995, my dad suffered a debilitating injury and couldn't work anymore. And just to think they were at risk, that if something had happened to my dad, we would have been on the street. Because some jackass, excuse my language, decided to put his own interests and his own commissions before the well-being of his clients. It set me off. And I just thought, my first initial reaction was how ignorant could my parents really be? I can't believe they let this happen. How come they didn't take responsibility about I can't? And it was when my partner said to me, no, Frank, listen, unfortunately, most North Americans are in that same boat when it comes to their finances. They just don't have a clue. I just thought that can't be. And he's like, let's go see more people. And as we went to go see more people, as we went to go see friends and coworkers and neighbors and family members, eight out of 10 people were in the same boat. They just had no clue. And that was it. I thought, this is it. I'm going to do this. This is unbelievable. I'm going to get on a mission to help educate and understand, help teach people understand finances and understand how to get their financial house in order, so that they don't have to be at risk the way my parents were. Nobody has to take advantage of them ever again. And that career as an advisor developed into becoming, an entrepreneur and building a team of advisors where I share this story with them all the time to make sure that I just sent a message out to my team this morning to remind them that their clients' interests come first, not your own, right? When you serve your market, your community, when you serve correctly and properly, the rewards are automatic. You don't need to focus on the rewards. And that was it. And that's kind of been the journey. That's how I got started in this business. And it's been 20 years and it's been incredible. Now, there's a whole lot more that happened in between, right, that I'm happy to share with, but it's never been just a journey straight up. Never, not one bit.
We're going to take a quick break to let our friend Steve Lehner tell you about his business, Lashley Street Roasters.
Hey, this is Steve, head roaster and owner of Lashley Street Roasters. And my goal is to get you the freshest cup of coffee possible. I don't roast the beans until you submit your order, shipped out within 48 hours. So when my coffee arrives, you've got the freshest coffee you've ever had. Check out LashleyStreetRoasters.com to submit your order online, and make sure you submit now so you start off 2021 with the right amount of caffeine.
Thanks, Steve. And you can connect with Steve with the links in the show notes. Now back to the podcast.
The insurance part, there's a lot that I want to say after you telling that story. The insurance part, I think so many people don't realize that they really need to understand policies across the board, and it's important to have a really good insurance agent who's going to break that down for you and who is working with your best interests in mind, right? And a lot of times insurance agents get really they get a bad rap just simply because there's so many that aren't educating their customers. So that's a really important lesson. The other thing is that we see it all the time with small business owners where they don't understand their finances, and they're embarrassed that they don't understand their finances. They don't know where to start. And it's hard to break down that wall sometime with people to get them to talk about it and to openly admit that they're not really sure what they have or how to make a plan to increase their revenue. So that's a huge area for small business owners. I think for people in general, it's huge. For small business owners, there's so much risk wrapped up in not knowing your finances. What are some of the common things that you see with small business owners when it comes to finances?
Well, you nailed it right on, Julie, that there's this pride thing. It's like, hey, I run this restaurant. I'm a restaurateur. The money part, I got a friend of mine to handle that. And sometimes people just, will offload that responsibility to someone that maybe isn't the most qualified, and maybe they didn't take the time to do their due diligence to bring in the right people to help them with that stuff. And I see that a lot. It's like, oh yeah, my aunt was a bookkeeper. So now she does all of my finances and all of my accounting. And it's just like, hello, right? I heard something the other day and it was a reminder that, cheap things aren't necessarily good, and good things aren't necessarily cheap. And I really, really believe that being cheap is expensive. And I think that's what a lot of small business owners do. It's they don't factor in the cost of hiring the right accountant or the right advisor or consultant or even lawyer, depending on the structure of the small business, to help consult and manage that financial part of their business. They don't factor in the cost to do that. So when they get going, they don't have the money to pay for it. They don't have the money to do it because they're spending money running their business, and they forget about that part. And 9 to 10 times, why do small businesses go under, right? It's because there's no more money. And it's wild because it's like, it's so important to us that should be just as important as the flipping product or service that you're offering. So I see this massive lack of planning, even with my own advisors, even with my own directors that are running their own agencies. There's always a reminder, hey, listen, put your tax money aside. Make sure you're paying your taxes. Not all that money's yours, right? You know, we live in Canada. Unfortunately, we get taxed through the nose, right? So make sure you're planning for your tax bill. Make sure you've budgeted your office expenses, running your business. Make sure you put these things down on paper and understand what it takes to stay in business long enough so that you can actually have a real business.
And I mean, that's great advice. And it's funny, without getting into details, because I don't know how much of this I can or can't share, but I know of a person who's a friend of a friend, but basically he owns a small business. And over the course of a couple of years, his wife ended up like embezzling like $300,000 out of his business. And he had no clue, absolutely no idea, because that's how like ignorant, and, you know, that's how, you know, deep his head was in the sand when it came to his finances, that like over a couple of years, his wife stole $300,000 from him and then just, you know, left the country or whatever it was. What for people like that? Because I mean, you're a small business owner. You own a restaurant. You're a doctor. You're good at what you do. There's a good chance that finances aren't your strong suit. What would you, aside from, you know, taking a class or you know, whatever, like what would you advise somebody to be like, here's what you need to know so that you know you're not getting screwed?
I think the first step for many people is to, like, if you're a doctor, I was just working with a new client 2 weeks ago on the client side, and she's a doctor, and we really began uncovering their financial situation. But I was recommended to her by another doctor that became a client of mine last year. So my first piece of advice is, you know, if you can find others in your industry that are working with someone that they trust and it's evident they're doing a good job and they can really show you that, I would start by asking other peers for referrals of people they're using to help them manage their financial aspect. You need great accountants, great lawyers, great advisors that can help them with that. I would start there, and I would interview these people. I wouldn't hesitate to interview 2, 3, 4 people and ask the tough questions, right? Don't be afraid to ask. You know, I any partners that I have, whether it's if my lawyer or my accountant, I'll ask them straight out, how much money do you make? I want to know. And in my world, you know, your income is a benchmark of the work you do. It really is in my world. Whether people think that's shallow or not, I apologize, but it is what it is, right? So I want to know. Are we in the same arena here, right? We've heard this a gazillion times. You know, your average income is, or your income is the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? So if you're going to become partner in my business, are you bringing me down or are you bringing me up? Where are you at, right? So I want to know if they're the right person. Interview them. Ask the hard questions. But I would start with getting referrals of other similar business owners and ask them who they're working with. And if you ever meet someone who says, I ain't going to give you my guy. Why? Because my guy's so good, I don't want to share him with anybody. Well, that's the guy. You got to find out who that guy is.
Or they're embarrassed.
You got to find. I need to know who he is or she is, right?
Yeah, either that or they got burned and they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
Or they don't have a guy, right? They're doing it
or they're
themselves.
pretending. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I also caution against. I also caution against a family member, a spouse, handling that side of the business. My wife, runs our home. I've got 3 daughters that are young, 10, and 9. So she manages that aspect of the business, which allows me the freedom to run our business. But I've always said to my wife, I would love for you to learn the different aspects of the business, be on top of our office manager, know what she's doing, know what's happening. I don't want my wife to be responsible for it, but I want her to be aware of what's happening, a second set of eyes. That's the extent that I believe a family member should be running that side of the business, because then if there's challenges, if there's an issue, it trickles into the family life, and it could just really spiral out of control and affect other areas that normally don't or normally shouldn't affect.
All right, we need to start wrapping up, but I do have a final question for you. What's one tip or piece of advice that you have for small business owners?
You know, if if you're lucky enough to make a living from something that you have a passion for, or if you eventually develop that passion for what you're doing, don't quit. Just don't quit. You just can't. Guys, like I said, 20 years in this business, I could tell you that my biggest, darkest moments were always about the insecurity, the confidence that I didn't have in myself, right? And for whatever reason it was what it was. And I would continuously question myself, why isn't this happening for me? Why are they saying no? Why is this not happening? And just, I would go into these 2-3 week almost depressions and lulls and disappear, and I'm going back like 15 years ago, and it was just this slow, constant working on myself, working on my mental game, working on my mindset, developing what I like to call a shorter rebound time. No one's ever up all the time, but when you do get knocked down, you've got to shorten your rebound time. You got to pick yourself up, right? Where you got to pick yourself back up, slap yourself around a little bit in the face and say, get the hell back to work, right? And for me, sometimes it would take a month to do that in the past, and it was terrible. It was terrible. The second thing I can tell you is this. If and not everybody's got a partner, and I mean a domestic partner, a spouse, a significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But if you do, I think it's really, really important that the two of you work together to be there and help and support one another. I'm not saying you both have to run your business together, but if it wasn't for my wife kicking my ass when I needed her to, I wouldn't be where I am today. There's no doubt about that. I'll never forget, real quick, 2007, we were married for a year, bought our first home, and I was having these pity parties for myself. And one day she sat me down and she looked at me and she's like, do I have to worry about money for the rest of our lives? I'm like, what? She's like, I'm worried about money. And guys, for me, I'm an old school, my background, I'm Italian, I'm an old school traditional Italian man, progressive traditional. But for me, it was a stab right through the heart. And I just thought, she doesn't believe in me. And she actually said to me, are you going to get going and get this thing going, or are you going to go get a job? And it was just right through my heart. But it was that moment that everything changed. It was literally that moment. I put my head down, executed, put a plan in place, made 6 figures a few years later after that, and have never looked back. And just things have taken off. And I just don't quit. Just don't quit. Keep working on yourself. Keep getting better. Keep getting better. Keep getting better. Strengthen your mindset. And for me, that means, what are you putting into your brain? Who are you allowing to put things into your brain? And that permeates into your thoughts, which permeates into your beliefs, which ends up being your actions. It ends up turning into your results. And that's everything. Nothing else to me matters except for that. Once that's all aligned, you can do anything. Once your beliefs are in place, you're going to take the right actions and you're going to get the results eventually. So I tell people all the time, just don't quit. Keep getting better. Keep working on yourself. Work on your mental game, and just don't quit. If you don't like what you do and you don't have that passion, as one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, always used to say, it doesn't take you more than 5 years to know, might be time to switch it up. Might be time to go look at something new. But if you have that passion, you really truly say, I love what I do. I love being face to face with people. Then don't quit. Just keep getting better.
I love that you know your moment. That's great. I love that you know that. Tell our listeners how they can find you.
And I want to just go ahead and interject real quick before you get started. You are in Canada, but you do have people in the U.S. as well. So
we, in about this time last year, November-ish maybe, we had just officially opened up operations in the U.S. in 7 or 8 different states, and we were getting ramped up, getting ready to go, and starting planning some big events and big things to get people attracted to the firm. And then good old COVID hit. So right now the U.S. is kind of a little bit happening, but for us it's generally on hold until the borders open up and until we feel comfortable to get things rocking and rolling again. But we are North America wide, we are Canada wide now, and we're excited about that. I think it's going to be wonderful when we start.
Okay, yeah, I just want to throw that in there because most of our audience is here in the States. So
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
They may be able to work with you, but yeah, go ahead and tell them where we can find you.
Yeah, my website is www.frankdelio.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, frankdelio.com. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I love it. It's a wonderful platform for business owners. I am on Facebook. I am on IG. I'm a techie, right? Like I'm still a techie. I love tech, but Instagram for me, I'm just like, I don't get it. I know Andy loves Instagram. I don't get it. I spend more time on Facebook and LinkedIn than anywhere else. But Frank De Lio, you can find me on all the different platforms.
Great. Thanks, Frank. And thanks to all of our listeners. And all of that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Frank, you can check out the notes to find out about Frank.
Yep. And you can connect with us on social media. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can reach us on sbpace.com and bizquickpodcast.com.
And while you're out there surfing the web, go ahead and subscribe to our pod, like us, and give us a review. We love feedback, so tell us what you think and what you like and don't like.
We really do love feedback. If there's specific topics that you're interested in hearing, or if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, just head on over to bizquickpodcast.com and fill out the form and let us know, and we'll take it from there. And we wrote a book. It's called Seriously, Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. It's available on Amazon. You can link to it through our website, and it comes with a companion workbook.
That's it for today's show. I'm Corey.
And I'm Julie.
And this was BizQuik, helping small businesses across America
and Canada.